Welcome, everybody. I'm Cathy. I'm in Vermont in the United States. Ramsey is off doing sweet things. So I am here on episode 29, season 3, with Paulette Pipe, who comes to us from Lee's Summit, Missouri. And of course, Suzi is here from Ireland. Hi, Suzi. Hi, Paulette.
Hi, Cathy.
Hey, Cathy. So good to have you back, Cathy. We haven't had you on for way too long. This is an extra added bonus.
It feels good.
29, we get to have Cathy on. And I'm thrilled about this evening's guest because she's somebody who I think lights up the room. She lights up our lives every Sunday morning when she sends us her little messages on YouTube. I'll tell you more about that towards the end. But Paulette hails, I guess, from London in the UK originally, and had a long, well, maybe a shorter life as a journalist, I guess, in the UK. And for whatever reason, she found her way to meditation, and which led her from her own personal practice to becoming an incredible, well sought after meditation facilitator and teacher. She's a retreat facilitator. She also hosted a podcast, so she's way more pro than we are, for 10 years, called Touching the Stillness on Unity Radio. And for over 9 years, she's been the keeper of the flame. We want to go into that in a bit of detail. So, going to welcome you in, Paulette, warmly. I met Paulette back, I don't know, I can't remember the exact year, but we just clicked instantly when we met, and it was in Sedona. And we both knew we were going to meet the same year again in the UK. It was an instant knowing. And we spent hours chatting that first night. So this is really cool that you're here. So thank you for joining us so much. Thank you for being our guest. And do you want to kick us off, I suppose, with our tagline, which we always ask our guests? Life goes along ordinarily, and then some things happen and things shift, and we experience the extraordinary. And how would you clarify or like to share that kind of aspect of who you are and why you are this amazing meditation teacher that you are?
Thank you so much for having me. It began with a sad story, actually. So I was about 29 years old, and my big brother died suddenly. And I was so bereft because I never expected to lose a sibling. So I was so bereft, I was depressed, couldn't go to work. And a friend invited me to New York when she heard the news, because it was close to Christmas by the time she heard. And she said, come to New York and just have a rest, because I can't imagine what this must be like for you. And then she took me to this Sunday service where they did this thing called meditation. And I'd never heard of it, delved into it, but my soul was like, oh, I can do that. And I'd never tried it, didn't even know what it was. But that's kind of how I launched my path, was seeking a way to find out what this thing was. And then it was intuitive. I didn't take workshops. I didn't go to classes. It was just an intuitive thing. I put my hand up and said, I can do it. They said no. When I finally found this organization in London, and I sort of put my hand up and said, I can do whatever that is. Because on a Sunday before their service, they would do this 30-minute meditation, which the organization that introduced me to it, it was a part of their Sunday worship. So what happened was, one Sunday, I was only there a few weeks, and the facilitator said, oh, I'm going on vacation, and Reverend Ralph is looking for someone to hold my place till I come back. And I catapulted out of my chair. I don't even remember how this happened. And I went up and I said, I can do that. He said, yes, dear, you haven't been here long enough. And of course, he didn't know that I'd never tried it at home. I'd never done it. I was just doing it in this 30 minutes before. But then it became part of my life. And I ended up going to seminary here in the United States at Unity Village. And I didn't know why I was being called to seminary, because I did not see myself as a pulpit minister. So I did everything I could to get them to reject my application, but they said come anyway. And that's how I found my way to retreats, which was a platform for me to use this gift that had now evolved and was recognized by myself and those who were on the receiving end of it. So that's kind of my way in, and then ended up coming back here 2006, so almost 20 years ago, to lead the retreat department. And so quick story. God, you shouldn't ask me things. I'm just going to roll off. But so what happened was I was invited to apply for a job to lead the retreat department at Unity Village, because I used to intern in the retreat department when I was in seminary. So I applied for and was accepted for the job, but it took 18 months for my visa to be processed. So by the time I got here, everything was different. It was not the same type of retreats. It was not the same way we did retreats. I ended up having a managerial job where I was bringing others in to run their retreats, and I was dying on the vine, because, as you know, Susie, having known me, I need to be doing and serving and creating, and but that's not what I was doing. I was supporting others in bringing their events and their retreats to the village, until one day they said in a employee meeting, they announced that they were going to launch this online radio. I'm like, what's that? What is that? Same sort of thing with the retreat, with the meditation. Like, what is that? What is that? How do I get involved? And nothing happened for ages, until we were at an annual convention, and my table for the retreat department was right next to the manager who was running the radio. And she said, "Where's your proposal?" "What proposal?" "Well, I thought you wanted to be on the radio." "Well, I don't even know what it is. Tell me more." And we had a discussion, and in that discussion, we created my Touching the Stillness radio show, which was a meditation and prayer, affirmative prayer, and it had music instead of ads, and it was the love of my life. Anyway, we created it there in that moment, and it was launched on November the 4th, 2008, and I did it for 10 years, and I would light up like a firecracker every Tuesday when I did my show, because I was still working at the village, but they gave me that time to present my show. And then I'd go back to my desk, really miserable. And so what I did in the end, after 2 years of that, is I gave up my full-time job with the benefits and the medical benefits and the salary, and I went self-employed and did it for free. And that was my job. So, because I did that for 10 years. I just loved it. And then it was time to go. And then I couldn't let it go completely. After about, 18 months, I was missing it so much that I decided to produce it myself, but it was too much for me to handle by myself production-wise. So it's kind of expired quietly. Long answer to
you might
your
give up
question.
again? Do you think that might be something that, not necessarily in the same way you were doing it? Do you think it's a modality, or something that you might pick up again in time, like to do
I'm
it?
not sure. I feel like something similar happened to me in seminary, when people would ask me what was I going to do for ministry, and I said, I don't know. It feels unorthodox. It feels like it doesn't exist yet. And of course, we didn't have the internet yet. We didn't have radio shows yet. So that's what I was saying back in 2001. And this feels like the same thing, that I probably will come back with something, but it doesn't exist yet.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you really do follow your gut instinct, don't you? You're
Really
just
do.
following your intuition. Your guidance is really the way you move through life, I guess. Would that be fair?
Yes, that's very fair to say. Very true. And it's nerve-wracking for people who watch me live my life, because it's great big risks and jumping without a net and not knowing why I've been told to do something. Sometimes I'm disobedient, like, no, I'm not doing that. And it will come circuitously to come back to me another way. But yeah.
I would think living that way for people to see would be very inspiring.
I hear that people are inspired, but they wouldn't do what I do, is what they say.
They wouldn't take such chances. But even if people see that and know, they still have you in the back of their mind. And when you can't make those big chances, or you can't take those big chances when you don't feel strongly about something. You know, so maybe you fueled people to have that. You called yourself a firecracker. You know, you're cracking sparks all over the place. I see that. Yeah. So I think you're doing all of us a service by, you know, giving people, yeah, that can be done. She did it. I can do it. I care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder, do people say to you, Paulette, like, how do you do it then? What's your practice? Like, how do you get that info or that insight or that guidance, let's say? And, you know, is it a nudge? Is it a dream? Is it a voice? Is it just an inner knowing? Is it just being able to kind of energetically feel your way from one thing to the next?
It's all of those things. I am an empath and have very strong intuitive gifts, and they all kind of came into coherence around the same time. Like I'd be not working, but like using this gift over here, and then this one would show up and I'd use it here, and then this one merged with that, and so all of them are coming together now to the place where I am. And you may also remember that back in January of 2000, while I was still in seminary, I made a commitment to dedicate 1 day a month to silence. So I would spend an entire day in silence, meditation, prayer, sometimes including fasting. And it would be something like, I don't have time to do it this month. And then be reminded, I don't have time not to do it this month. And it was particularly obvious in seminary, where I went back to school while I was in seminary to finish my degree. So I had double the homework, double the study, and I'd be like, I can't do it. And I would still do it. And then whatever assignment I had for college would double for what I had in seminary, and books would fall off the shelf and all that kind of thing. So it's like, okay, yeah, just keep doing what you do. So I've kept that commitment for the last 25 years, 26 in January. And I'm sure that supports what I do. And then now I'm self-employed and I manage my own time. I have a very extensive practice, but it doesn't feel like, oh, I do my meditation or my practice and then I go to work. It feels like the minute I start, I've started work, because it's preparing me for whatever I'm going to do that day.
Wow. And with just going back to the day silence per month, is it the same day every month?
I want to know how,
yeah,
when.
like the last Sunday, the first, third, you know.
No. And particularly when I was in school, and then I had a really crazy schedule when I was working at Unity Village, and in all my jobs, actually, because I've been doing it for all this time. So it would go on my schedule, and it's non-negotiable once it's on the schedule. I might change the day, but it's on there like any other important meeting or whatever. So I cross the day out. And if it looks like I'm not going to make it to the 30th or the 31st of the month, then no, everything else has to change around that.
Wow.
And so at the moment, it's on a Saturday, and it's usually around the third Saturday of the month, but it's not written in stone, but it has to be done before the 31st or the 30th. Not has to be, I get to. And everyone is different. It's just like going on retreat or something. Every single month is different. And there were times back in the day where my day of silence would be sleeping to catch up on my well-being in between the prayer and the meditation. So, it just depends. But yeah, I'm very strict about that.
So, but when you know that it's coming up, it's on your calendar, it's going to be this Saturday, you've been doing it for so long, is it like an oasis for you? Or do you still sometimes like, oh my gosh, I should be, this thing is, no,
it's like I have an appointment, I have a Zoom call, I have a meditation to lead. It's like that. I get ready for it. And I have family in England still. And if they don't hear from me, we check in with each other. So we have like a little family group, and I send them a photograph every month. It's a badge that I wear that says I'm observing silence today. And so I send that picture to them and like So if you don't hear from me, don't call the police. Don't send
Right.
someone to break down the door. I'm just in silence today.
Wow.
How many people around you have taken up that practice?
Well, I used to do a silent retreat every year for about 12 years, and I would share, mostly at the beginning of that 12 years, I would share that this was one of my practices, and I'd say maybe 3 or 4 people took it up. They did it differently than I did, and that's okay. And you were talking about inspiration earlier. People who were inspired thought, well, I can't do a whole day. And you don't have to do a whole day. You just have to be willing to do something. Maybe it's a couple of hours every month. Maybe it's half a day. Maybe it's quarterly. You don't have to do it the way I do, because I consider this part of my sacred service in the world. But just having some kind of practice, 5 minutes a day to start, and then, you build up.
Wow.
Because it makes a difference. It really does.
I can imagine, because the accumulation that we have, like, on a weekly basis. So, it's so smart to do that once a month. Like, it's and really keeping to the commitment. My gosh, for 25 years. Wow.
26 in January.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. And I know that you like a good tune as well, because when I used to listen to your podcast, you always had cool musicians, songwriters, cool songs. Like, you're a very cool gal. If somebody isn't watching this and they're listening, Paulette does this groovy thing which she calls moving into stillness. And I remember the first time that's how
Dance
I
your
met
own
you.
dance.
Dance your own dance. Exactly. And we did it in the UK. We did it. Paulette and I did a retreat in the UK as well, and it was part of that day as well.
The Sedona retreat where I met you, we did it there.
Yeah, well, we did something like that with the Divine Feminine in the UK. Remember, in Nottingham. But anyway, it's so cool. Like, it's all about choosing the right tracks, getting the groove on, and just shaking it off. Like, and then the groove will change a little bit, and gradually it starts to kind of come a bit slower, and they're all beautiful kind of moves that you have to do, where you have to mirror the person you're dancing in front of. I did that with Sarah McLean. She was taking full advantage of me at the time, I remember. She was doing a very sexy dance. Anyway, that was really funny. But there's something that happens when you go from that level of movement and engagement with the sound and the tune and the vibration and the rhythm, and you get to that point of stopping, pausing, the stillness. Like, it sort of brings you into a much more expanded state of awareness than if you just were moving and just stopping straight away, kind of thing. I'm wondering, is your kind of day of silence a little bit like that? You know what I mean? You're doing your practice all the time, and then you have this very juicy, longer time, this day of silence that, I don't know, it's really powerful in its as a practice. Would you share a bit more about the dancing, dance your own dance, and moving into stillness? And
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you very much. And I, in answer to the first part of the question, yes, I do see it mirroring my extended day does mirror the work I'm doing on a daily basis, and it compounds into that on that day of silence. How I came to, well, I'm into music, I'm into sound. It's all part of what juices me. And I love to dance, always have. You remember Top of the Pops?
yes,
When I was little, I'd be in front of the TV. It was bedtime, but I'd be able to stay up and dance with the Go-Go Girls. Always loved to dance. So that's nothing new. But I went to Bali, and I was there for 6 weeks. And in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I was introduced to the yoga barn. And that's what they would do. That it would be this huge space, and people would come from all over with their kids and their other half, and single, and visitors, and we would just jam in silence to this music. And then when it stopped, you go into that space of stillness, which is something I teach, that, one of the fastest ways to move to stillness is to move your body. But to be with heart-minded people and do that, So then I decided when I came home, I was going to try it myself and introduce it. So I was offered a yoga studio, actually. She offered it to me virtually free. And every Sunday, I would host this Dance Your Own Dance event. But it didn't take. People are scared of their bodies. They're scared to move into their bodies. And you were talking about the mirroring. So that's a way to get out of your head and into your heart. If you're giving someone your full attention, which is actually the purpose of meditation in a way, is that we build up that muscle so that we can be present in the world and we can be mindful in the world. So you're giving someone the gift of attention by mirroring, not, am I getting it right? Am I, it's going over here and, oh, what are they doing now? You are just focused and receiving, and energetically you're having this experience, and then you switch. And then we do, as you said, all these the different sounds that take us down into stillness, and you're just in that sweet spot. So anyway, it didn't work out at the Zen Zone yoga studio, but I was able to incorporate it into all of my retreats. And so that's the way I get that Trojan horse in. And now I'm also doing Qigong. I had always done it, but something happened to introduce me to it on a deeper basis now. And so that's another move-in meditation. That's the same principle. We do the moves and then we move into meditation stillness. So yeah.
I have the quote from your website. I just love this. I had to write it down. Paulette turns an ordinary pause into moments of presence. And it really is the ultimate gift, like to bring people into that stillness and to have that experience, like, of just present moment awareness, being aware of nothing in particular, just being. And
Well,
I
that was
think,
kind of like the excuse me interrupting, sorry.
no, go for it.
That was kind of the foundation of my ministry when I started Touching the Stillness, was to bust the myth that there was only one way to meditate, because people sit on a mat and chant Om. So I was really speaking to beginners or people who don't meditate at all, to show that all the ways that you are showing up in life could be a prerequisite to a meditation practice. And that's when people go, oh, I didn't realize I meditated. And it started also with this article I wrote called Anyone for Tea. And I describe in a very meditative way making a cup of tea and all the parts that go into it. And then I come up the stairs and I sit on top of the stairs and I smell the wafting aroma of the herbal tea of choice. And I take a sip, really sort of into the details. And then I look out the window, not looking at anything in particular, and just breathe. And then I have a pause, and then I take another sip, and describe that as a tea meditation. And people get it, but you're anything you're doing, you're giving it your full attention. And then when you stop, you move into that space. And that's how people really understood that they're gardening and they're doing their yoga class or, whatever else could be a prerequisite to the practice.
I love that. It's like meeting everybody where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think as well, beautifully, like, everybody's making a cup of tea, but like showing them how to kind of ritualize that and, turn it into that kind of sacred moment, or, just to bring the full presence to just the sacred act of having a cup of herbal tea. Like, and that's a practice in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. That is so cool. I know you have a lot of other practices probably that you do yourself anyway. Like, so I know from your other podcasts, I remember listening, and you talk a lot about affirmative prayer. So that's a contrast, I suppose, to the breathing into stillness, or the touching the stillness. Can you kind of differentiate between, affirmative prayer, touching the stillness, or is there no difference really?
Well, I was introduced to affirmative prayer. That is something I did learn. It didn't come to me intuitively. And that's when I joined Unity, which is a New Thought organization. And that's their style of prayer that was taught, was affirmative prayer. I'd never heard of affirmations before I met Unity. Now they're mainstream, and they weren't so much then. So we call it prayer, but it's really affirmations and positive statements. So the way I would use that is I would do meditation first, go into a deep place, and then speak those truths into that sacred deep space that we just created, because it has even more power. And then even when you're doing it with a group, it has more power. And in truth, I don't necessarily use it the way I was taught in Unity. They have like a 5-step process, and I haven't really, I mean, I can teach it and share it in that way, but I have, the way it comes through me is quite different. And in all honesty, Susie, I struggle if I try to write the affirmative statements. It's a growing edge. I do one every month and put it on Facebook, but it doesn't just come naturally as when I'm doing meditation. Just open my mouth, give me a microphone, and I'm there. And the same is true with the way I pray. When I'm thinking affirmative prayer, I'm thinking, oh, it has to be certain words in a certain way. And, you know, you have to have the I am statement, less than 12 words, if possible, in the present tense. And all those things are valid and helpful, but I don't seem to be able to do it if I'm thinking about having to do it that way. But if I just go into prayer, the words just come. It's like channeling in a way. So it flows. And then if it's coming from my meditation, or I've just led the group in a meditation and I pray from that place, it's like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And we're all looking around like, what just happened? Yeah.
I remember I have another memory that keeps coming up, so I'm going to bring it in, that we shared was, again, in the UK another time, and we were at the castle and we ended up on the roof.
On the roof in the turrets.
Oh, you were there for that.
How we got there, but we were up there, and it was the moon.
We were going to look at the moon.
Yes, the moon was rising. But I remember it was another practice you were doing there because we had a fairly sizable group of women with us as well at the time, and I remember was it a sequence of mudras? Was it hand mudras that we were doing, or is it the kind of Thich hand practice of you're bringing it in?
Oh, right. That was a kind of mudra. So yes, I'm into mudras, hand movements that use the meridians in our hands and fingers. But we did my take on the Thich Nhat Hanh mudra.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the story behind that, you know, I'm a storyteller. To see him was on my bucket list. And I went to New York, of all places. He was going to be at the, what's that theater on Broadway? I do not remember the name of it. It's a small theater on Broadway, and he was going to be there doing a one-day retreat. So I got to go. And we did eating meditation and walking meditation on the streets of New York, where they're not phased to see 400 people walking meditative step down Broadway, only in New York, right? But in one of the sessions, the monks were singing, and the what's the opposite of the monk?
The lay people? No?
The ladies.
Nun?
The nuns, thank you.
Yeah.
I told you that would happen. So yeah, the monks were on one side, the nuns were on the other, and they were singing in Vietnamese. And he had this huge gong in front of him, and like a big bowl, and he would just intermittently hit the gong as they were singing this beautiful chant. And my eyes were closed, and then I realized I was weeping. And the only way I realized I was weeping was that the tears fell in a V right down into the center of my heart. So I opened my eyes and I saw him doing, like he'd gong intermittently, but I saw him doing this, where he would sweep his hand across his heart and then just open it like this and turn it and then release. And it was like whatever the sound was, whatever the energy was that was coming from the heart center, he was sharing it. So I took that, borrowed it from him, and I share it when we're doing prayers for the world or prayers for the, you know, communities and so on. And so you're just like feeling into your heart, allow the pulse of your heartbeat to beat into your hand, let it be a pulse and a vibration of love and light, and then you sweep that across your heart. and hold it as a gift. And as you exhale, you turn your hand and share it out in the world. And it's just so powerful. And then I got a friend, Daniel Namod, who's a famous New Thought musician. He recreated the chords from what the nuns and the monks were singing. So I have that as my background. Oh, I just love that.
Wow.
But yeah, we did that on the roof.
We did. I like we've had a lot of really kind of cool experiences together. Like if you were showing up, I always knew, okay, like something's going to be happening here. You know what I mean? We're in sixth gear now. Paulette's in the room, like so.
Well,
Yeah.
ditto.
I know, because you came to Ireland and we thought, okay, we're doing nothing. She's just on her holidays in Ireland. And of course, there were all sorts of shenanigans going on over here as well. Like, so it's just lovely. It's lovely to see, how that tapping in to your intuition shows up on a daily basis. And, you might think you're going to bed, going to wake up and do X, but then when you wake up, it's like, well, actually, no, you're going to be over here in Y Central or whatever. Like, so yeah.
That's why being self-employed and running Touching the Stillness really suits me. And my family had said that about me when I was a journalist. I went self-employed for about 2 years during that 12-year stint. And they said, you were at your best when you were self-employed. And I understand what it means now, because I'm a creative. And to be on that 9 to 5 clock and you've got to create or produce or show up at a given time, I follow my spirit and I give myself permission. So yeah, it's like going with the flow in that day. Having done my practice, it like I think I'm going to be doing this today, and we're going to, there are things that are standard. Like if I have my bi-weekly Touching the Stillness breathing space meditation, of course I'm going to show up for that. I'm also an Insight Timer teacher, and we do a weekly live event on Insight Timer. I'm not talking about those things, but just like, oh, I thought we were going to be working on this, and then the phone rings or something will happen and takes me in a whole different direction, but I'm ready.
That's present moment living, like, isn't it? Really, it's being able to be in the moment as it is and just follow the breadcrumbs and there you go.
It's
Like,
being the affirmative prayer, not speaking it, but being it.
Yeah, it's not an idea, it's a way of life, like, isn't it? It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Susie, you're good at that too. You're good at listening and turning, when maybe I think women are good at that. We're so flexible in the world with all of our different hats that we wear.
Yeah.
And the energy is always going to come for the sort of the paying the bills kind of work, if you set that aside because you have a moment of, oh, I want to write that down, or whatever, creative.
You too, Cathy. You're an incredible Cathy's an incredible artist, mystic artist, creative. You really live in that creative zone as well. Like, so, and
I had to learn that wasn't easy when you go to work every day, and as an artist, and you're supposed to have your ideas there in that place at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really work. But I've been self-employed since 1994, and it wears off on. I'm thinking about my husband now, who is highly productive in the male workplace, but he gets to work at home, and he understands. You got your, I know I can't. I don't know. You go for a walk. You go chop some wood. Do something else. Shift, and then before you know, he's like, I know what I'm doing now.
Yes, exactly.
It's a beautiful thing if we all had that freedom. It's really freedom to breathe and understand. Yeah, I'll get it all done. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm no less because I can't create in this little box.
Right.
If the box was this big, or there wasn't a box, we would all probably be twice as productive, right?
Yes, because you get more done because you're in the zone faster. You're not struggling to get there. And I've got to pull this thing out of the air because it's due in 10 minutes and my manager's breathing down my neck.
Right.
Yeah.
And then everything else can be in the zone also. There can be the mindless labor, washing the dishes
Correct.
can be in the zone too,
Yeah.
because you haven't had to quantify it as this other thing that doesn't count.
Yes. And then while you're there focused on the suds and the softness of the suds and the grease coming off the plate, oh, okay, that's what I need to do or say, or how I need to
Exactly.
title it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's untangling yourself from the hard problem, do something else, and then it's like remembering that word you couldn't think of earlier. Just pop it in
Those
when you're
women.
not thinking about it anymore. It's like, wow.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
other thing, is staying grounded. I spend a lot of time by myself and a lot of time doing this work. I really need to remember to stay grounded so I can be in the world as well. So, yeah.
Do you do any specific kind of grounding practices, or?
I go for walks in nature. My best
Yeah.
friend calls it being in my community, because I'm out there with the butterflies and the caterpillars and the baby tortoises, and
they're
everybody's
your
walking,
community.
power walking, and I've stopped and I'm like, oh, like, what? Do you not see that little tiny little tortoise at the side of the road? No, because they were going.
Yeah.
But that's what you get to see when you do the same walk. And Suzi, your same swim. You're a walker too. I'm a walker. You notice the little things.
Little things, and being in nature, it's so healing. So I call it my wander, WANDER, my wander.
Oh, nice.
Excuse me, my wander walk, WONDER. I go out
Wonder
and
walk.
wander to wander. Oh God, I'm confusing them.
I like that though, the wonder
The
walk.
wonder walk. So everything's amazing. The trees are waving at me in the sunlight, dappling sunlight, and yeah, I'm just.
Yeah. You're just like after my own heart here. Because
I even tried, and here's a funny story. I've even tried, because I do Qigong and I do the spring forest version of Qigong. And I love to do it in between two trees. So sometimes when I go out walking, I'm looking for, that would be the perfect place to do my Qigong. And I set myself up and I'm doing my thing. But there's usually like a neighborhood. The first time this happened, I was in a little park that was in a neighborhood, but I was facing the golf course. I was not facing the homes. So I'm doing my thing. But you start with shaking and letting go, bouncing, and then you raise your hands over your head and you're shaking. And the next thing I know, the cops show up. Someone called the police because I look like I'm having a psychotic event. But then he stayed long enough in his car to see me like doing the moves and like, oh, okay. But it's happened 3 times in 3 different places.
Oh, wow.
But I like to do it outside. I'm restricting myself now because I don't want to get arrested. But it does look a bit weird if you don't know what it is. But it's not like I was looking into their homes and like, scouting their homes. I was facing the golf course, completely in the zone. I opened my eyes and he's sitting there watching me like, oh my gosh.
Wow. People are quick to call the cops, ain't they? Oh my God.
It does look a bit weird, but
yeah.
I tried they just don't understand. And then another time I was near a pool that belongs to the neighborhood, but it had these beautiful trees in this little garden. It wasn't in there. It wasn't, there's a fenced off bit. I wasn't across the fence, and I'm doing my thing and they start blaring the music. They must have been cleaning up, and they start blaring the music to let me know that they're there. And it's like, thank you. That gives me something to focus on. I'm focusing on my practice, even with the noise. You make it part of the meditation. That's part of the practice that I teach others. Make it a blaring noise meditation. So I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my Qigong. And then they come out and they start banging the dustbins. It's like, okay, now it's a banging the dustbins Qigong. And then eventually they came out and they said, are you okay? And I nodded. Just exercising. And I nodded. And then they went away.
Oh, wow. That's funny, isn't it?
It is funny.
We'll keep disturbing her here until
she realizes that we're in here, in case she thinks, in case she's having a breakdown.
Wow. Like all of those practices are obviously the things that make you so unique and extraordinary, without a shadow of a doubt. You do light up the room. You are just such a spark of light, and speaking of light, I know that for 9 years you were this keeper of the flame, and are that is even still, I think, in another capacity from what you told me earlier. But it's a space holder. It's a holder of space for events, I think, is it, or for groups of people. Um, would you share a little bit about that, like in
Yeah, I'd
terms
love
of?
to. Thank you. So, the Keeper of the Flame was a role that I took on for the Unity Worldwide Ministries Board of Trustees. They are the credentialing body of Unity. They serve ministers and ministries and do the credentialing. So I served on their Board of Trustees for 9 years, and there was someone there before me, and she had created the role and held the role for 7 years, but I didn't really know what it was when I heard that she'd stepped down. So I had to go in, and because she had stepped off the board, I went in and created my version of it. So I was a non-voting member of the board. But what I would do, they would give me like 30 minutes before if we were in person, which we did 3 or 4 times a year, for several days at a time. If we were in person, I'd get 30 minutes and I would set the arena. We'd set the arena together. And then whatever energy we had co-created, whatever space we had co-created, I would hold that. So I'm in the meeting in silence, holding and working with the space as it changes. You know, there are sometimes when you're in a board meeting where there's dissent or people don't agree, but they say, I'll go along with whatever you say, and all their energy, all their anger, frustration, and silent judgment is in the space that you've just cleared. So I may not know who it was, but I can sense that it's been contaminated, if I could use that word, and then I would clear it again. And that also helped them to have really difficult discussions and deliberations. It was a safe space to do that. They could just feel that. And sometimes they would say, I would just look up and look at you, and I just would be calm again.
Wow.
So I did that, and we would meet. When I was on the board during those 9 years, we would meet every month for about 3 or 4 hours. And then, as I said, 3 or 4 times a year. And I was in the room, in the space, in silence throughout the entire meeting. So I did that for 9 years. And then I stepped off the board and became the Keeper of the Flame for a group called the Evolutionary Leaders Network. And they are part of the Source of Synergy Foundation, which was founded by Diane Williams to create synergistic affiliations and cooperation with groups who are doing good work in the world. And so the evolutionary leaders included people, or it does still include people like Deepak, who you know, and Greg Braden and all the heavyweights. And then now it includes the rest of us. There's like 300 members or so. So I hold space on the Evolutionary Leaders Council. Wow. And then about 2 years ago, another organization called the Hollow Movement came into emergence. And I was in Sedona with them when they were bringing this igniting, we called it igniting the Hollow Movement. What is it going to be? What does it look like? How does it work? And once it was ignited, I then joined the core team and became the Keeper of the Flame for the entire Hollow Movement, and showed up on the core team meetings, would do the opening events, the meditation, or the whatever the opening event was for, the opening ceremony was for their annual event. I would create those as well. So I'm not doing the Hollow Movement anymore. That ended last month, but I'm still doing Keeper of the Flame. Sometimes I do it ad hoc for like a board. Parliament of World Religions were just in town, and I wasn't present in their entire meeting, but I helped them set the arena for their meeting. It was their board of trustees. So I do that on an ad hoc basis as well. I may hold prayer vigil if a board is going through something really, something difficult that they have to convene about. I will hold vigil with them while they're doing that for however long they're in session, things like that. But out of that came, I think, combined with the practice I'm doing, the emphasis in the Qigong practice I do is about healing. Everyone's a healer in every home. And so that just amplified whatever healing work I was already doing. And so now I have this adjunct to Keeper of the Flame called Energy Support Practitioner. So now I'm working with, and I always did, but not only working with the space, but helping to clear and reset individuals' energy, clear energy from objects, clear energy from the space.
Wow.
When you were doing the space holding for groups, was there resistance from people? I mean, I can't imagine that in every group, everybody understands what that is.
Yeah, no, so I'm speaking to like-hearted people. I would like to
Okay.
take it out mainstream, but and that's why I came up with the energy support practitioner role, because that I can explain more mainstream than keeper of the flame.
Sure.
But in those settings, like when I first joined the board of trustees, we were talking about prayer earlier. There was this practice that if there's dissent in the room, or they can't come to consensus, we would stop for prayer. And because I was working with energy and I knew how to quell any sort of antsy, so they would be having these discussions and they'd be looking at me.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Are you going to stop for prayer? Look, it's like, I've got this. Carry on. You're going to be safe. You're going to be safe." And so they started to trust me.
Yeah.
And in that role, I was also the liturgist for our annual general meeting. So at the convention, we would have a one-day annual general meeting, and I was the liturgist. So I would work with the parliamentarian, and I could call for prayer I can stop the proceedings at any time to stop for prayer. And again, I didn't need to, because I was working with the energy with 600-700 people in the room.
Wow.
Yeah, to keep it calm. And then if I did feel like we needed prayer, I would do one of those, my version of the affirmative prayer.
Wow.
So yeah.
Amazing. I think about that a lot, and I've talked with Suzi about it, working with groups. Sometimes somebody steps in and they're in a bad place, or they just probably shouldn't be in the group. And then what do you do? So yeah, that is a big topic. I'm fascinated.
Right. But if you're holding the space, it's like there's a prayer: reveal what needs to be revealed and heal what needs to be healed. So if you're working with energy and you're working in that space, people will self-select, because the energies, they're not feeling symbiotic with the energy or with the group or whatever, but they can have some kind of clarity and discernment if the space is clear. I just thought of that.
Yeah, right. That makes a ton of sense. Right. If it's clear, then all of a sudden they can realize, oh gosh, this isn't my place.
And that happened to me once it was a couple of years before I stepped off the board. I was in the board meeting and it's like, I think it's time for me to go. I don't belong here anymore.
Yeah.
I just am not able to contribute. I need to go. And I created in that same meeting, it was one of our in-person meetings for 3 days or something. And in that meeting, I created this prayer and we all stepped into the circle and I spoke this prayer that Suzi, you belong in this circle. What you have to contribute is valid and valuable, whatever. But I'd already said to the incoming chair, I don't think I'm going to be here for your tenure. I think I'm going to step off. And they were just all shocked and horrified. But when I came home and meditated on it, I realized it wasn't my energy. There was someone in the room who was having that thought, and they resigned. When we came back out, they resigned. It's like, oh, it wasn't even mine.
So what did you do?
Oh, I stayed another couple of years because I realized it wasn't my energy. I picked that up, that they were having that thought and that energy was seated in the room.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, it's me.
Right.
I'm complete. I didn't know I was complete. Okay.
Wow. Fascinating.
I have a story I wanted to share with you as well about the energy support practitioner, where because as I amplify, as I work with the energy in new ways, I'm seeing more and more of the minute, minute by minute iterations, right? So I was at an event, sharing a room with a new friend, and she was going to be presenting the next day. So she was taking things out of her bag to show me what she was going to do at her presentation. And then she took out these keys, they're decorative keys, and they were quite long. And she took them out of the bag. I'm the other side of the hotel room, and I'm like, oh, the energy. She's like, what? Like, you can't feel that? It's so strong. You must be able to feel it because you're holding it. It's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. But I couldn't, I was having all these symptoms and pain and angst and physical pain just by her holding them. And she said, oh, you're worrying me. I'm going to call my friend who gave them to me. And I said, no, I'm fine. Everything's okay. But it turned out that the friend had given them to her and they were in her house. I thought the friend had given them to her for the event as part of the presentation, but these keys had been down in her basement. And the work she does involves youth. And someone that was helping had stayed in that room for 3 months. And then she explained that whatever I was feeling when she told me what was going on, and for confidentiality, I don't want to get into the details, but she told me what was going on. And as she told me what was going on, those are all the emotions and physical feelings I was feeling in my body off of those keys.
Wow.
So I took them into the bathroom and did a clearing, and then she used them the next day. And in the way she used them, people would come up to the table and pick things off the table. And almost everybody who came up would work with those keys.
Wow.
And it makes you think, because like if the energy hadn't been clear, someone might walk past that room and go, oh, I don't think I want to go into that workshop, and not know why, or they may go into the workshop and be antsy and not know why, or go up to pick up the keys and like, oh no, not those. And so it really opened my eyes to how the energy can be held in objects and wall hangings and just in the walls and in the room, and having an effect on us, and we don't know. So I'm able to detect in a lot of cases when I have a physical reaction.
Yeah, it takes a lot of discernment to kind of distill it down, doesn't it? To separate you from what you're picking up on as well. I know that. I know you and I have had a couple of interesting experiences in rooms that are very old and God knows, and
Yes.
and I think sometimes when there's more than one empath in the room, it almost becomes more amplified because you're picking up on one aspect, I'm picking up on another. You're kind of looking at each other. You're in a non-local space. You're not even talking because you can't talk about it at the time. Maybe you digest it later and talk about it, but it can get very intense. But I think my own personal experience is that things like that are coming up because we're there for that reason,
For
to
that
do some
reason,
clearing,
yeah.
isn't it? And to I remember at one point thinking, I didn't train to do this. Like, this cannot be my job. Like, this cannot be something, because I would do what came intuitively, but then I'd really second guess myself, thinking like,
Yes, that part.
but I couldn't have done anything else,
That part,
I
yeah.
remember traveling with crystals, and I didn't even know what they were called or what what their properties were. But then suddenly I'm doing all sorts of things, and it's this kind of inner knowing, and you're like, I've got to get these to some running water in a natural
Exactly.
spring. And
Yes.
you're like, is there a natural spring? And I'm hearing myself going,
And why water? Yeah.
and so I think that's part of living in that flow, in with that I suppose that living presence. And it's like being a little cleaning, I don't want to call it
Yes.
a cleaner, a little, just doing a little spritzing over
Energy
here.
housekeeper, yes.
Yeah.
So last
Exactly.
year, no, it was this year, I was in Asheville for a Hollow Movement annual event. And there's lots of crystal stores. And I didn't go into every one, but I went into this one particular store. And I'm walking around admiring all the crystals. And I just started weeping. It's like, what's wrong with me? So I calm myself down, I leave. And the next day, there was one across the road from the hotel. It was beautiful, beautiful collection. And I was in there and I was just weeping again. Like, why am I weeping? So I even, the owner who was behind the desk realized what was going on. And she said, it's just because you're such an open empath. You're feeling all the energies and you're probably clearing yourself as well. I've just been doing this big event with however many people in the room in this theater. So it's like the event's over and now the crystals were like just discharging all at once. It was coming through tears. So yeah, you don't always know. Those, because they were the most exquisite and all sizes. And it's a bit strong.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like you mightn't have even seen that shop as when you arrived in that place, but when it's the
Correct.
right time for you to go in there, suddenly you can't see anything but the shop, and you're like, guess I'm going in here.
Exactly
So
right. It was there the
yeah.
whole time. I didn't even know what the complex was. And then on the last day, realized it was a little gallery shopping center. It's like, oh, yeah, just when I
There we
needed it.
go.
Here I
So
am.
that's
Hear
something
me.
that's really evolving. Like, I suppose you've been doing these incredible practices and facilitating retreats for a very long time now. And in all of your sort of in your own evolution, do you notice that, things in the way of doing your own practice or working with other people or groups or uh, wherever you are, whether it's just in your private life or as a facilitator, that there's that real shift is taking place in the world, and it's calling us to do different practices or to show up a little bit differently. Do you notice that?
I
Do you?
do notice that. And as Cathy was saying at the beginning, I'm here in Lee Summit, Missouri, and I've been here the entire time since I came to take up that job. And I'm always asking myself, why am I still here? Most people think I live in California or Sedona. Like, what am I doing here? And I realize that we all have a place, we're all holding the light where we are.
Mm.
We are all called to hold the light where we are. And it's not just those who are expressing their gifts in this particular way. We are all light keepers of the flame. And that light is you just see the flames all over the globe lighting up the place. And once we realize that's our purpose, then we can be there and we can notice that the thrashing is happening as the old is getting ready to be, softly, well, not softly anymore, but like just ushered out, and the new is coming in. And just being on YouTube recently and noticing all these young people are sharing, the stuff that speaking to their fellow Gen Zs and millennials and everything. And it's like, wow, they are so enlightened, but it's time. We're all waking up and we're all saying the same thing, but they're saying it in a way that their peers can recognize and respond to. And yeah, there's definitely a big shift happening.
So if you've inspired people to hear more about your work, what are some concrete ways to be in your presence more? You have tell us about where you are and how to find you.
Thank you. I have a website called touchingthestillness.org. I'm on Insight Timer. I have a page on Insight. I'm an Insight Timer teacher. And then on Wednesdays at 1:00 Central Time, I lead a 45-minute live event, which when I started it was to hold sacred silence for whatever was happening in the world, because there was so much going on. But then people would come with their anxieties and I would feel it in the room, even though it's these little icons on a screen.
Yeah.
We are here.
Yeah.
I would feel their angst and their energy. And so now I've changed it and extended it for 45 minutes so we can spend some time decompressing and grounding ourselves. And then we turn our attention out to the world. So I do that on Insight Timer. What else have I got going on? I have a YouTube page. I haven't done much with it recently. And what you were talking about earlier with the daily word, Suzi, that's not on my YouTube page or Touching the Stillness page. It's kind of a private link, but I do send out, because the daily word, every Sunday I send out a daily word video. So it's the daily word for Sunday, and it comes from the Daily Word magazine published by Unity. But because it's their product, I don't get to share it online. But I'm thinking that I will do my own version of something like that. Maybe repurpose some of the stuff I did in my podcast and create videos from that. But that's to come. And what else am I doing? Keeping the flame. I'm trying to find some space to do some retreats, and those will be on my website when I do. But you can find out more on the calendar page of Touching the Stillness.
Okay, great. I have a feeling people are going to be asking.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for asking.
Very inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely inspiring. Your creativity is just contagious, I would say, because it's like you said, meditation. There's a way to meditate for everybody, or there's a prayer for everybody, a daily affirmation, whatever works. I always say, but that you're able to meet anyone and everyone where they're at, like, and you have this massive kind of toolkit or kit bag full of goodies. And, you know, that's what's so beautiful and inspiring about your work. I'm excited to see what's coming next. You know, I'm getting this visual of sort of, you know, the way they do all these like short things now. Everything is like 40 seconds.
Right.
You know, you know, we like things a bit longer. Like we're here for an hour, just rambling on happily out. But really, the fact that you in 40 seconds or in a minute or two, you know, you can transform a space or a person or a feeling or an emotion or a thought almost instantly. Like, so, you know, I can see you just doing these little bite-sizey, what do they call them, Kathy? Clips or
Shorts and reels.
Reels and
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because there are some instances where I'm keeping the flame and they say, can you do 2 minutes or 1 minute? Like, it really takes a little bit more than that to ground a
Yeah.
whole thing, but I still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine if it was 10 minutes.
Mm.
It felt like
But you
that
see,
after
you can
2.
reel them in.
If it can feel like that in 2, imagine how you'd feel if we had a more appropriate amount of time to do what we do. But yeah, so if I can allow that experience, or that experience happens in 2 minutes, let's share it, and then maybe they'll be ready to go deeper.
Mhm.
Yeah, reel them in, and then have the, you know, the other juicy offerings, because it is these feelings and sensations that we cultivate within ourselves and that we share with others. It is a gateway drug in a way. Like it's you cannot get it from anything else. Like, you know what I mean? It's an inside job. And I think when people start to get a little taste or flavor of it, you know, there's that desire is just automatically created, you know, to have some more of that. Where can I get a little bit more of that?
Yes, yeah.
So
touchingthestillness.org.
that's Paulette, touchingthestillness.org, and I highly recommend it. And what's your Tuesday again, Paulette? 'Cause I know you send out
Thank
emails on
you. The
that.
breathing space. That's
Yes.
a gathering that's on Zoom every other Tuesday. And then if there's 5 Tuesdays in a month, we have the Twilight Zone. So it's at 7
Ooh.
in the evening for those who can't come in the day. And all that information is on my website on the calendar page.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you just need to kind of go on and have a little rumble around and have a look at Paulette's website and check her out.
And there's a fresh affirmative prayer on the affirmative prayer page of the website. Every month I put up the affirmation of the month.
Oh, cool. So much. And just to finish up, over an hour, and I appreciate everybody who's hung in there listening to this. It's been a joy. The hour has flown, I have to say. But
Yeah.
we did notice just before we went live that this was like a full circle event, because when I was on a call with Paulette on her, getting ready to be a guest on her podcast, actually talking about meditation, we went off on a few kind of tangents. And then Paulette said, just before you leave, I've got to show you this. And it was this beautiful mandala that she had made and created herself. And she said, I think you've got to check out this lady, you know, and it was Janet Connor. And sure enough, you know me, I followed the breadcrumbs. I checked her out and I was like, oh yeah, okay. And you know, anyone who knows my story knows that I was involved for a good few years with Janet and some of her amazing programs. And that's where I met Kathy. So Kathy is about to launch the latest edition of the Lotus and Lily, I believe, with Janet. Do you want to share a
Yep.
tiny little bit about that, Kathy?
The Lotus and the Lily starts on November 18th, and you can find out about it by going to janetconnor.com. It's an incredible way to review what has happened in the last year. We're adding something because next year, the numerology to 2026, 2 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10 equals 1,
New
which
beginning.
means we're starting a whole new thing. And we don't know what that is. Lotus and Lily is about reviewing and then using that intuitively to make some make some agreements with yourself to have practices maybe, or just shifts here and there to set things up for a life that wants to come through you. And it's not intentions, it's not what I want, it's not accomplishments. And then what we do, and then the next year, so it's really a sacred process that happens. It's good when you've been in it a few times, because we're starting to have gatherings we had a gathering 2 weeks ago to review the things that we put in our mandala that you don't necessarily understand when you make it. But after living through the year, you look at your mandala and everything makes sense.
Yes.
Because you've invited it in. You've invited in the yummy stuff, the juice. So janetconnor.com. It's really a lot of fun, and the community is precious.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me do that. And I can't believe there's another piece in the puzzle around Janet.
Yes. she was on the same network that I was on.
Right. She was a Unity person for a
She had
really
a
long
Unity
time.
show as well.
Yes.
Oh,
And my
I didn't
mom
know
has
that.
been.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Janet.
a lot of common denominators here,
Correct.
like, aren't there? Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So lads, this is the advert for meditation right here. Do your practice, do your, creative writing, do your art, do your affirmations, your affirmative prayers, your whatever. Go to the retreats. Take a day of silence every month. Take a leaf out of
For a
Paulette's
few
book.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in touch. Let's stay in touch, because it's amazing the connections that we make, and it's priceless, absolutely priceless. So, Paulette, we're going to have to say goodbye. Oh my God,
Thank
it's
you
been
for
so
having
much
me.
Thank
That was
fun.
so
you.
lovely. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
just had a blast. I really
Nice to meet you,
enjoyed it.
Cathy.
You too. So good.
So take care, and until you're back over this side of the pond, Paulette.